Phil, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. This is take two.
Take two.
Oh,
this is real life right
yeah,
here. This
that's
is
exactly
podcasting.
right. Exactly right. So, for those who don't know you, let's just jump into a little bit of your backstory, what you're doing right now, and then we can talk about some of the different things you got going on.
Yeah, definitely. So right now I'm working for Pensacola Christian College. My official title is Eagles Events Coordinator. Basically boil it down at an athletic coordinator. So I deal with anything from when you walk in the door to when you leave at a game.
Okay.
So fan experience, we have a rewards program for students. Also deal a lot with making sure the scores table's all set up, all the PA announcers there. I train the PA announcers, do everything from game day, making sure my game day graphics and screens are there, audio is ready to go, music, locker rooms. So anything you can think of when you walk in the door to when you leave, I'm responsible for.
Wow.
So
awesome.
I deal with that. And then I also deal with things like team gear, where you create logos, and we already have an established logo and branding. So we use that branding and create team gear for the team each year when they travel and just to wear around campus and things like that.
That's cool. I feel like that's kind of rewarding to be able to see your work around.
Oh, definitely. That's probably one of the things I like the most about the job is the visual aspect and the people aspect combined, where you get to see the product on someone, the athlete, and they're proud to wear it around campus.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like, man, I worked on that.
Definitely.
That's cool. So how long have you been in that position? How long have you been?
I've been working for the school for 5 years.
Okay.
And I actually met your cousin. We worked together, Isaac. We worked together at the school for the first 2 years in the admissions office. And then the last 3 years I've been working for Eagles Athletics specifically. Okay. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Shout out to Isaac Fitzsimmons. We're actually probably going to have him on the podcast soon.
Good. Probably talk about guns.
Yeah, we'll talk about guns. Right? And he's been selling cars for a while. So we'll have him jump on and talk about that. So yeah, you guys were in admissions together. And that's when I first came to school. He was still working in admissions. Which
That's
was
right.
Cool. He was my.
I remember him
advisor.
talking. Hey, my cousin Mikey's coming.
Yeah, I walked into. He was showing me around campus, and he walked into the admissions office, and I just followed him right in. And some lady was like, "Are you a student? You can't be back here." And I was like, "I'm just with him. I'm really sorry." So anyway, how long? You said you were in admissions for like 2 years.
2 years.
Okay. Now, did you seek out the position that you're at now, or was it just kind of an open role that you fulfilled? Or
so the position never existed before me.
Really? Wow.
What happened is we have a new athletic director right now, but there was another individual who's over student activities, and he was responsible for Eagles athletics at the time, and we were friendly with each other. So I knew I didn't like the job I was in. It just wasn't a good fit for me, and I knew I wanted to go work for someone like student activities. So I went every day. I went to his office and I sat down and talked to him and said, "Hey, what do you need done? Let me do it for you." So I'd go to the office as well to his employees and say, "Hey, do you need someone to run to Sam's Club to go pick up something from Sam's Club?" Like, "Yeah, here you go. Here's the card." And so I worked my way slowly, proving myself I'm willing to do any job. I'll go straighten up your storage room. Just let me get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
And over time he realized, "Hey, we have a position that's opening. Would you like to fill it?" And he kind of explained the position. It was going to be.
At that point, you were like, "Nah."
At that point, I was like, "Please get me out of admissions."
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the place. It wasn't a fit for me. Being stuck at a desk 8 hours a day, answering phones, emailing people. I mean, I do some of that now, but I have a lot more freedom now, and I need freedom in life.
Yeah.
So
I'm right there with you. I mean, really, we are definitely. So, well, that's cool. It sounds like you really are enjoying where you're at now and the job that you do.
Yeah. It's definitely not the end all for me.
Sure.
But it's the next step on the journey. It's the next stepping stone. And I've learned so much at the job, and I've been pushed so much. I also put on events, and one of the reasons I didn't bring that up at the beginning is because this year, because of COVID, we're really restricted on events. So we cut out most of the athletic events. Usually I put on these huge events for like 3,000 people.
Wow.
And so that really has stretched me.
A little bit of pressure,
Yeah, it's really stretched me. And not only did I have to transition this year away from events, I'm focusing more on, we made some social media videos in place of those events to kind of hype up in place of like a pep rally.
Yeah.
So it was fun getting to work on all different kinds of aspects and avenues of the job. And I just love new things.
Yeah.
If you ask my wife, she'll tell you I go through phases each year. where, I mean, we'll talk about fishing in a little bit, I'm sure, but I haven't fished in months just
Really?
because I'm in a different phase right now
Mhm.
and because of COVID and whatnot. But I just like going through the phases, and maybe 3 months out of the year, I'll be heavily focused on the podcast and YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next 3 months, I'll be focused on just like right now, I'm focused on studying politics because of everything going on.
Sure.
I'm just like, let me learn about this because it's so important.
Yeah.
And I just like to go through these different phases and
Yeah,
learn new
I
things.
tend to be the same way though, because it's cool when you start out as a beginner in something, you have such a huge learning curve, and then like diminishing returns. After a while, you're not learning so much and achieving so much progress. But when you start out and first start doing something, like for me, it's scuba diving. I really got into that a couple years ago now. I haven't been diving in a long time, like exactly like that. I get excited. I'm like, oh man, I got all the gear and everything. And I go in, there was a couple weeks I went 3 or 4 times in 1 week, and, got my roommates into it, trying to get him into it. And I still do it, but it's like moving on to something else, I guess. I don't know.
I understand.
But it's just fun to start
You go
new
through
things.
those phases,
Yeah.
especially with the weather changes too.
Yeah,
around
for
here.
sure, for
It's getting
sure.
cold.
But still, I mean, that kind of makes you a jack of all trades,
Yes.
master of none. But you can relate on a lot of topics with people too,
Right.
when you've done a lot of things. So I think that's valuable.
And I've never been a person too who I'm still at this place where I've found the one thing in life that I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. I just have to try everything.
Sure.
And some things I like, and then most things I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong with experimenting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for college. I think a lot of people need that. They need to just go and be exposed to a lot of different things to figure out what they want to do. You
Yeah.
know, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Definitely.
So that's cool. Well, it's cool to hear about your position now and, kind of how you worked and got into that. So while you're doing your current position, obviously you're big into fishing, and you've done some work on Instagram and YouTube. So let's talk about social media just a little
Definitely.
bit. What are some things that you have done in the past to grow social media, and how do you see that things have changed in that amount
In
of
the
time?
field?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I started with Instagram, and I worked very hard. You probably both have heard of Gary Vee. Big fans, I'm sure. But Gary Vee talks about the $1.80 strategy for Instagram, where basically you go and find specific hashtags in the field that you're interested in, and then you go leave you leave your 2 cents, if you will,
Okay.
meaningful comments on all those hashtags, helping someone. And that's how I really pushed towards growing my Instagram. And the first year, it was super. The first 3 months was probably the most difficult, but then once you get a little traction and like you hit 1,000 followers, then I'm up to like 32,000 followers. I haven't really posted in a while or
Yeah.
done anything. Really haven't tried to grow it because the following year, I think this was 2 or 3 years ago, they changed their algorithm
Yeah.
and it became a pay-to-play platform
Yeah.
like Facebook. So I just kind of lost interest. If I
Yeah.
can't do it organically on the platform, I'm not interested.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
loses its
that's fair.
attractiveness. It's just kind of like, I don't know, kind of
Yeah,
grody at that
kinda
point.
cheating.
You can still grow organically on Instagram. It's just not as fun.
Yeah.
It's clogged up with people's highlights or fake highlights, really.
Yeah.
And I just am not a fan of that. I like real.
Yeah.
Just give me real.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's
agree.
why I transitioned over to YouTube.
Okay.
I focus more on YouTube. One, because of that. And then I also have some friends, for example, Bama Beach Bum. I've had him on my podcast as well, but he's probably one of the biggest YouTubers for fishing in the area. He's over in Alabama, Gulf Shores area.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's very popular for the area.
Okay.
And he was kind of the pioneer for surf fishing videos or surf fishing channel in this area
sure.
specifically. And he was probably one of the first guys in the area who became popular as a surf fishing guide. And so anyway, he kind of grew my interest in YouTube a little bit. And then I just went down the rabbit hole, and it was awesome. It was so cool learning everything there is to know about YouTube.
Yeah, man, you got to learn videography and sound design and all this just interesting, crazy stuff. And
Yes.
even just down to editing and uploading. I
Yeah.
mean, it takes a lot.
And honestly, to me, that's the easy part. If you can be somewhat of a videographer, you don't even have to be that good. You can do most on your phone these days,
Yeah. Fair
as
enough.
long as you have decent sound, right?
Yeah.
If you're good at that, I love editing, so that was like candy to me.
Cool.
And then posting and all that's easy. It's knowing how to grow. Most people don't know how to grow on YouTube, and it all comes down to using tools like TubeBuddy and finding out keyword phrases that will rank you in search, and then leveraging that. And it just constantly doing your research. I would take hours just finding the right title for my video and the right tags. Now tags aren't as important anymore.
That's what I've heard.
But title and then thumbnail. I got good at Photoshop because
Nice,
I
man.
found
You
out
jumped into
really
everything.
fast. If you can get a good thumbnail and a good title, and you can get that person to click and keep their attention, you will win on the platform.
Interesting. Okay, so you mentioned a tool like you said, what is
TubeBuddy.
TubeBuddy? Okay.
Yeah.
And what does that do?
TubeBuddy, basically, there are a lot of tools within it, but basically the best tool is the keyword research tool. And you go in and you type a keyword or keyword phrase that you're kind of contemplating, and it will rank it. And it'll say, hey, this one ranks 20%. It's really bad. Don't use it.
Okay.
Or this one will rank 90 out of 100.
Okay.
Oh, let's use that one.
Sure,
So
gotcha.
it's a lot. If you see the platform, you'll understand a little more. It has like
Yeah.
a little dial and everything.
Sure.
And
Okay.
That's interesting.
let me tell you, if you're getting into YouTube, definitely use a tool like TubeBuddy. I think it's
Yeah.
only, I don't know, maybe $10 a month.
Okay.
But
that's not bad.
the return, once you start monetizing, you're going to make more than the $10 a
Yeah.
month faster.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. So how long have you been doing YouTube then? When did you make that switch from Instagram to YouTube?
I believe it was about 3 years ago.
Okay.
I
That's a
started.
good amount of time.
Yeah, I started. I tried it for like a year, but my problem was the first year I tried to copy other people. It was really pathetic, and then I couldn't figure out how to be a Bama Beach Bum. You know, someone like Matthew Isbell's his name,
Okay.
but I couldn't figure out how he was so good behind the camera. So one thing I was good at was editing. I said, well, I'll make like fishing, like music videos almost, where you just have a really cool track and you edit to the track, edit to the music.
Sure.
It was okay. Didn't really get a lot of traction. I took a year off because I just was like, I don't know about this YouTube thing. I wasn't seeing any growth. And then I came back the following year, so this last year, and I really grew. I went from like just under 1,000 to almost 3,000 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw that
Subscribers.
at the time of recording, I saw you were close to 3,000.
And the last 500 have been organically still, even though I haven't touched it in like 5 months. When you create the right content for the platform, which is evergreen content, meaning it's not like talking about Trump right now in this situation.
Yeah,
It's
right.
talking about
Just jumping on a bandwagon.
right
Yeah.
the history of the U.S. Well, that's evergreen content.
Yeah.
That's something that you could do for forever,
Yeah.
or some people would be interested in watching forever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I figured out evergreen content, and this last maybe the 6 months before I took a break with COVID happened, I really figured out my niche, or however you want to say it, was
There's a disagreement over how to say
niche
that.
or niche. Yeah.
GIF or GIF.
Anyway,
Exactly.
yeah.
The real key for me was creating educational content.
Okay.
And so I go through and I did a series on like the top 5 this, the top 5 that, the top 5 places to fish, the top 5 fishing reels to use. And that exploded. That combined with the research and the thumbnails just exploded for me. And I was getting probably 5 times to 10 times more views per video than I was before.
Wow.
So I think with a platform like YouTube, it's experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to post a lot, because even like right now with this podcast, you may not have a lot of listeners. Neither did Joe Rogan when he first started.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, and for us, it's a lot very much about providing value more than we're not really trying to monetize, or we want to grow a following, but also growing a following just means that it's more valuable to guests that jump on, you know?
Correct. Yes.
So it's not really about a lot of those things. I think a lot of people jump into platforms like that just because they see their favorite YouTubers making a lot of money. And I think you're coming from a place of you're kind of starting to fail.
I agree.
So
It's about building a brand.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly
exactly.
right.
And when I had to learn that the hard way, because I was chasing the money, and I realized if you want to make money, YouTube's probably the worst idea right away.
you wanna
Now
make
there's
quick money.
there's a quick money. There's affiliates. Like I make more off of Amazon Associates still a month than I do through YouTube. Just
Interesting.
linking up different products people click through, even if they buy any product because of cookies, any product on the platform on Amazon, I'm going to get a kickback from that.
Wow.
So I mean, especially for
That's
guys,
awesome. That's really cool. Like,
definitely,
that's huge.
I mean, I would recommend doing it for your podcast channel. Just list all your podcast gear, because new startups who listen to your podcast will be like, whoa, I like their setup. That's what I did. I stole Tom Rowland. Has a really big outdoor hunting, fishing podcast.
Oh, cool.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Famous guy. And I just reached out to him and say, hey, what are you using? And he linked me over to a page that links to Amazon.
Ah, okay.
And I just bought through his Amazon link.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
nothing wrong with that.
No,
I mean,
not at
there's
all.
like
Absolutely not.
if you have if it's not costing me any extra, I don't care if you get paid or not. That's
Exactly.
fine. You know,
Yeah.
you did the extra research in the beginning, so
Yeah.
just copy your setup.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
And you're saving a lot of people research time.
Yes. 100%.
If you can say, hey, look, this works for us, and I'm proving it because you've listened to my podcast for 10 episodes now and you love it.
Yeah.
You love the sound. This is my gear.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the links. And then you put a little, Amazon has you put like a little disclaimer saying, hey, I get a kickback from this,
Yeah,
basically.
right.
in
Yeah, I
legal
see,
terms.
especially like in videos, people are like, the links are down below,
Yes.
and I do get paid. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why do you have to say that, man?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's an Amazon thing.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
makes sense. And I'm sure there's some people who are like, well, you shouldn't get a commission off me, but
I don't understand that.
I don't
thought.
either.
If
It
they
is what it
understood
is.
how much time you put in
Yes.
to make
Exactly.
one video or
Yeah.
one podcast,
yeah.
mind blown.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Well, that's cool. Okay, so you did YouTube for like a year, and you were experimenting, trying to find that evergreen content that you're talking about. And then you said you haven't done YouTube in a while, but you're still kind of experiencing growth. I mean, that's awesome. That's
it's
inspiring, and
substantial.
that's something that's cool about YouTube, is that once you set up a video that provides value, it can continue to get, you know, views and bring in more, which it's cool. It's cool to see.
Definitely.
So do you have any tips for people who may be wanting to start out in YouTube? What questions did you ask yourself trying to find your own niche or niche, whatever it is? How did you find your own brand and decide, okay, this is what I want to do and I'm going to stick with this?
Number one is just start. You'll hear other YouTubers say that as well. But it's so
harder than it
true.
sounds.
It is very harder than it sounds. Number one, commit to it and start. Number two, carve out time. Because if you don't, even in the situation I'm at right now, haven't carved out time for it, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
You have to commit. And three, have very low expectations of results. Because it probably will take at least a year to hit 1,000 subscribers if you're doing everything right. If
Yeah.
you're not, then it could take years.
Yeah.
And people talk about the market of YouTube, the platform being oversaturated. It's not. It's really not, because their algorithm's getting better and better, finding the right people for your content. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's doing your research. If you do your keyword research, you're going to be 90% more successful than those who don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Interesting.
a great way to put it, because a lot of people will tend to jump into stuff and just keep pumping out content without learning anything, and it's like they're putting in the work, but they're not being effective. You know, work
Exactly.
smarter, not harder.
Well,
like
and
you were
that's
saying.
true. And like you said, you tried to copy somebody in the beginning. I think
Yes.
a lot of people jump on and they're like, well, this is my guy. I'm going to make content, you know,
Yeah.
in the same vein as that person. And then when they don't get the results, they're like, well, what's going on? This
Yeah.
YouTube is oversaturated. And it's like, well, it's not. You're just not providing something of more value than, you know, the next guy.
And YouTube, you have to realize, YouTube is probably going to be the hardest job you've ever had.
Yeah.
I've heard that from YouTubers.
I've worked some
Yeah.
really hard jobs in my past. I think you guys are from Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
In Wisconsin was probably some of the hardest work. I've worked for some farm boys who had a tree nursery and tree service and landscaping, and then obviously tending to the farm.
Yeah.
Hard, put in like 12
Manual
to
labor,
17
man.
hour days.
Yeah.
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 Out in
Blue
the
collar
sun.
work.
It was great. It really, every little thing you've done in your life, I think for those people listening who want to start a YouTube channel, everything you've done has prepared you better to go on your YouTube journey. And my thing is, figure out not only what you're interested in. With YouTube, that does matter, because you're going to burn out if you don't create content you're interested in, but you also have to figure out what the market wants. It really is a business.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out what the market wants. If you're in it for you to just build your brand, and you don't really care about numbers of subscribers, you really want depth, then I say do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But please, 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 please do your research, because if you do your research, you're going to be more excited about waking up every day and getting on the platform and thinking of new ideas of what's my next video going to be. Well, I got this idea from passionate fans who gave the idea to me, and then your work becomes a little easier. You don't have to come up with every topic.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, you can make more content that people want to see.
Exactly.
That's cool. And like you said, carve out time. That comes back to the same thing. Treat it like a business. Because I think a lot of people are haphazardly, you know, and that's why for us, when we started with a strict recording and upload schedule. We record every Monday and Wednesday. We post every Tuesday and Thursday without fail. And there's a lot of other things that go on, but it's like this is important, and we want to just keep that consistency, like you said, because you have to just carve out time. Otherwise, it's not going to get done.
Absolutely. And I do. There are some conflicting arguments about this. I still believe if you can post every day when you first start out, if you don't have a job, you don't go to school or anything like that, if you can post every day, you're going to grow faster. People say quality versus quantity argument. I still believe when you first start, the platform is pretty saturated. But if you're pumping out 100 videos on a subject, and they're all pretty good, they're not maybe exceptional, but they're pretty good enough to watch, and the sound's good, people are going to binge watch your content. It's the Netflix age.
Yeah.
We have to realize, as a YouTuber, if you create that idea of the Netflix content where they can just binge, no one wants to wait a week for the next episode anymore. So I think if new YouTubers follow that mindset of the more I put out, yes, maintain quality, maybe do 3 times a week, but the more I can put out, you're going to see bigger growth faster.
Yeah,
I definitely find that true with myself, especially with COVID.
I was just going to say,
look
at your own YouTube habits, your own watching, because whenever I find somebody I like, I go.
Yeah, no matter who it is, somebody famous or not famous, you just keep watching, the video, you follow the chain, like you said.
Yeah. And also a key, if I can just add this one more comment about YouTube, is realize not everyone's going to like your personality, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We all follow people on YouTube, whether we subscribe or not. And honestly, that doesn't really matter on YouTube. It's watch time.
Yeah.
But we all spend lots of hours giving people watch time, if you will, of personalities we enjoy. I personally, just to give an example right now, I found a guy named Tim Pool who does a lot of politics, and he has a show that comes on every night, Monday through Friday. And I just like his personality and the personality of the guests he has come on. And I realized when I was creating content, it's okay if people don't like you. You want your tribe.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't, if you spend too much time trying to appeal to everybody, then nobody's even going to discover you. And I think that's so important, just in general, to understand. In life, not everybody's going to like you. And that's okay. It's really fine. And for us, we've had to, I say for us, he's been working with me for about 2 months now. But in my real estate journey, I've had to come to the terms with the fact that not every client is going to want to work with me. Not every person, not every lead that comes through is going to enjoy my personality. And that's okay too, and there's actual money at stake. There's a transaction at stake. But if you're not going to work well with them, let them go find someone else who they'll enjoy and they'll click better with.
But I'm also guessing the people you do click better with and who like you are going to recommend you to family.
100%.
Exactly.
And friends.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I feel like I'm becoming friends with clients that I have who I enjoy, after closing, I'll go to their house for dinner or different things like that. Or we'll go, I have a client a couple months ago who invited me to a hockey game once the season comes back. I mean, it's fun to have those kind of clients. Like you said, your tribe, you can kind of replicate that in YouTube and with whatever job you're working. But it's cool to work with those kind of people, and it just makes your life so much better and so much easier. Versus trying to spend all that time making everybody happy and not seeing the same results, and you're just so much more mentally strained.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool. So, man, YouTube, I feel like we covered a lot of ground as far as starting a channel and growing and trying to come up with content. Is there anything else you want to say on YouTube before we jump into? I want to talk about fishing a little bit, but
definitely, there's so much to YouTube, but I think that's enough.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, so I want to talk about fishing. What type of fishing you're not a scuba diver, are you? You don't do any spear fishing or anything like that?
I don't, but I have a friend who actually got me into fishing.
Okay.
And he right now he's a charter captain as well.
Oh.
He's a young guy, but if you ever want to find someone, and honestly, if you reach out to him, he'll take you free diving, spearfishing. Let's see. I want to say this right. Let me look it up on Instagram. Got to pull out
just to make sure.
the old phone. I think it's Sink Face. It's not just him. It's a bunch of his friends as well. Let's see here. Yep, Sink Face free diving. My buddy Dave Miller, he got me into fishing and then shark fishing especially.
Oh, okay. Shark fishing. So is that just, you said he runs a charter boat. So what kind of, as far as anything besides, and I'm not even huge into spearfishing. I've recently gotten into scuba diving like a year and a half ago. I've been spearfishing a handful of times. I can count on one hand, and it is addictive. I'm trying to get him certified probably when it warms up a little bit, so it's a little more enjoyable. I mean, you can throw on a heavy wetsuit and still go, but it's
definitely
not
on my
nearly
bucket
as fun.
list.
Yeah, it's scuba diving is so much fun. I could talk for a long time about scuba diving.
I have a buddy who actually I fished with, and actually through Dave met him, and he was a former Army Ranger, and he lives in the area, and he's a master diver. And he does commercial spearfishing sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
He has gone to remote places in the world to scuba dive.
I love that.
Every time he talks about scuba diving and spearfishing, makes
you
me
want
want
to
to try it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a friend like that. He was on the podcast. What episode was Shay?
It was
I don't remember.
episode 6.
Something.
Yeah.
Before episode 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a commercial spearfisher as well, and he's been spearfishing for I think 2.5 years and scuba diving for like 3.5. And he's personal friends with the guy who trained me, my scuba instructor, and my scuba instructor told me, he's like, Shay's been on more dives than I have. He's been on like 3,000 dives in that amount of time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And they do live boating. So they will take the boat off the coast or offshore. You don't drop an anchor. You just roll into the water with a buddy. You go down to the bottom, you kill your fish, and the boat up top is watching for where your bubbles are, and they try and guess where you're going to come up. And you surface, and the boat comes over to you, and you hop in the boat. And it's like my first time going down. It's like, what's going to happen when I come back up here? It is absolutely bonkers. It's so crazy. But anyway, so do you do on the shore typically, or in a boat,
so it's
or both?
land-based shark fishing.
Okay, gotcha.
People don't realize the size of sharks that are in the ocean right off the beach. Now, we do take a kayak out. We've gone out as far as a mile, but we go like 400 or 500 yards. You know, you take the kayak, take a big old bait, jack, stingray, barracuda, king, something big and stinky. Take it out there with a big old 20-aught circle hook, 1,000-pound leader. You go out, steel leader, and then you go out there, find a spot, you know, that you want to go, probably past the second bar, at least somewhere deep. Drop it, and it's usually at night because you don't want to do it with tourists around because of all the crazies out there.
Yeah.
And then we drop several of those. I haven't done this in like a year. It's been too long. And then you just wait for the bite. Man. And once that goes off, it gets your heart racing.
Oh, I'll bet. But in a kayak, you're saying?
Yeah, you kayak out the bait because you can't physically cast out 500 yards.
Oh, sure.
Especially with these big old conventional reels.
Yeah,
There's no way.
And then you're coming back to shore and just waiting for something. Okay.
Right, and you set the clickers, and you hear click, 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 and your adrenaline just goes through the
I'll
roof.
bet. That's crazy.
The first time I went out, I was totally unprepared. And if you've ever been at the beach at night during this weather, even now where it's like in the 60s,
yeah,
it gets very cold
chilly.
because of the humidity. And I remember coming out, someone had a garbage bag. And so I said, can I borrow that garbage bag? And while we were waiting for the shark, I just squatted down in the sand and put it over me just to keep the wind from, because I was frozen to the bone.
Yeah. Oh man.
And as soon as the guys put me on the rod, I just warmed up so fast because adrenaline just like, and then you're reeling hundreds of yards. They're taking hundreds of yards. You reel, they take, you reel, they take.
A battle, man.
It's a battle. Yeah. And that was a scalloped hammerhead. It was my first shark. It was 6'6".
6'6".
As tall as me. It was cool.
That's
holy
crazy.
cow! How long did it take you to reel it in?
That one was just under an hour, I believe.
Oh, that is such a long time.
Yeah, it is.
That is forever.
I mean, if they're out there almost a mile, that's it, and they're taking yards at a time too.
When they first hit, usually they don't know they're hooked.
And
then once you set the hook, once you reel in the slack and the circle hook comes up out of their stomach, hooks in the side of their mouth, And once they know they're hooked,
Then they're like,
running.
uh-oh. Yeah.
And you have to be careful with hammerheads because they'll fight to the death.
Mm.
So there's a lot of laws now. You have to be careful. What you have to do is use heavy tackle so that you can get them in quickly, keep them in the water, keep their head in the water. Now you have to use bolt cutters. You know, cut the hook in half, release them right away. Otherwise, you know, you're doing it illegally, especially for species like hammerhead.
Interesting. Wow. So it's shark fishing is just catch and release?
Yeah.
Yes, there actually is. We actually recommend to other fishermen who want to eat their catch whenever you catch a black tip, if it's legal, which in Florida there's no minimum. In Alabama there is. But go ahead and bleed it out and then eat it. They're amazing to eat,
really?
But they're overpopulated. I've gone on the jet ski. Actually, I have a video on my channel going on the jet ski when it's a very clear day. I think it was just a couple months ago. And I would just cruise around the beach chasing sharks on my jet ski.
What?
Yes. In water that you wade in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's too cool.
Yeah, let's stop right there. It's funny because every time we go to the beach, it's like, you know, somebody makes a joke.
Yeah,
oh,
we
I
make
thought
a
I
joke.
saw something in the water. But I mean, I've been to Crabs on the Beach, which is a great restaurant. Crabs on the Beach, and you know, towards like the evening, and you can get up on the pier and just look down and see all the sharks feeding around there, which that's a little unnerving, you know, because that's tourist haven right there. Everybody swims over by the pier. So that's just a little.
They usually leave people alone. There was one
They're not the
teenager, right?
Yeah.
There was one teenager on Orange Beach, I think this last summer, who got bit in the foot. But basically, his dad explained the story. They saw this flurry of a school of fish coming through. It was a school of mullet.
Okay.
And it swam right towards his son and himself, who was out there. And so what happened is the blacktip thought it was going for one of the fish and didn't see the kid.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with humans. They
Yeah.
want to leave you alone. And you actually see in some shark attack, if you look at the bite mark, it's like a clean bite because their teeth go in and then they realize
Immediately
it's not something they want and retract cleanly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
It's really, it is interesting. Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
like that
encouraging.
stuff a lot.
You'll still
Unless
get a
it's a
big
bull
old
shark.
bite.
Yeah. If it's a bull shark,
I've heard.
run.
Yeah, I've heard
They're
those
nasty.
are really mean. Well, that's good though. If a shark bites you and it's just gonna pull out clean. So you'll still have a
Depends on
ton
the
of
shark.
lacerations. But
Well, it matters though.
it does
I mean,
matter. Yeah,
lacerations
unless
can be stitched up.
taking
but
a chunk out of your arm.
yeah, seriously.
And then once there's blood in the water, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so
you
That's
gotta
true.
get out.
Dangerous. Yeah. So what's the biggest shark that you've caught?
to be fair, when you catch the big sharks, it's a team effort. So it wasn't just me.
Sure.
I was there for a 10-foot shark. It was a tiger.
Wow.
10-foot tiger. And I wish I could have stayed the night because the guys who caught that 10-foot tiger the next day caught a 12-foot hammer.
Oh,
Wow.
man. That
And
is, I mean, that's
It's huge.
huge.
It's a huge shark.
It's
Because
like the size of this room.
yeah, and it's not just the length. It's a big shark around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine being like scuba diving and seeing something down there. Because I've seen one shark one time. I think it was a black tip. We were at 100 feet. It was actually my first time scuba diving.
Probably a sandbar if you're out there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think. We were 8 miles offshore. And Shay doesn't even remember because he's seen so many. But I think you said sandbar.
I think it's a sandbar shark, probably.
Gotcha.
I mean, without
Gotcha.
seeing it, most of the sharks we catch offshore are sandbars.
Okay.
It's just they like to hover around. It seems the wrecks. a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's
Bull sharks as well, but
we were. I mean, the bottom line is for me. I was looking. I had no idea. I don't even really remember what it looked like. I was just like, that's a shark.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing because you're in their territory.
Yes.
You know, you're not in control when you're underwater. It's really interesting. So, but yeah, no, I think that everybody should at least try scuba diving. And you can get over at Dive Pros. I'm going to give them a plug again on the podcast. If you go, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday classes from 6 to 9 p.m. Super easy. You're just literally in a pool and they have you do like a swim test the first night. And all you need to do is basically you have to be able to tread water for a couple minutes and then swim down and back. It's not hard. And then they teach you to like breathe through your regulator underwater. And then Saturday and Sunday you go out in the ocean with your class and you do open water dives. And Sunday afternoon you go back to Dive Pros and you're certified. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's like $270. And then from then on you can rent for $50 your gear and go out whenever you want. Go to Pickens or Portofino. There's a bunch of different cool spots where you can go scuba around here, or Vortex or Morrison Springs. And it's just like when you're down there, it's such an unreal feeling. It is so unreal. It's like you're like an astronaut. You're just floating.
My buddy Mark, who I told you about, said it's just so serene. He said it's probably the most calm feeling you get of anything he's been through. And obviously he's been through war, but he said it's just so serene and calm because it's quiet. And then you see the fish. And even when you see a shark, he said sometimes they're curious, but they're just really a majestic looking creature going through the water. It's pretty cool. I mean, I know just from seeing them on land how majestic they look. They're awesome.
They're aerodynamic, man. They're cool.
The raw power when you handle even a 5-foot blacktip is out of this world.
Oh, I'll bet.
It's just all muscle.
That's cool. I love that, man. That's awesome
to think about.
So besides fishing, what else do you like to do in your free time? Do you have any free time?
Well, I have 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And now we have a St. Bernard puppy.
Oh, so you're busy.
I'm busy.
Really hands full.
And now it's also season for we just finishing up volleyball and soccer. They're at nationals right now. Good deal. Then we just started basketball, men and women's basketball. So it's very busy. Once the summer hits, usually I try to go fishing a little more, especially during the spring pompano run. That's what I've been doing most of. I don't really shark fish much anymore. I focus on surf fishing from the beach, catching pompano, which are like the yellow gray fish you've probably seen. They top the charts for edibility, and they top the charts for per pound cost really for fish in Florida.
That's
some of the best fish you'll ever eat.
Cool.
But they're also tough fighters pound for pound too. So that's what I've been focusing more when I was doing YouTube like 5-6 months ago, focusing on teaching people how to target pompano, because that realistically is the top game fish other than redfish maybe, which it's hit or miss if they'll be there, and whiting that you want to target in the surf. So I teach people how to catch pompano, especially those tourists coming in. You know, they see guys like Bama Beach Bum, and there's a whole host of other guys who I fish with and have YouTube channels in the area, and they see them being successful. And so I'm able to teach them, and the other guys teach them as well. And it's just fun to see the excitement and someone commenting on your channel. Hey, thank you so much for this instructional video. It taught me
this and it worked.
And I've come down 2 years before, never caught anything. This year I was able to catch things.
That's great.
Following, what you told me to do. It's exciting.
Rewarding.
Sharing experiences really is rewarding, like you said. That's awesome.
I love it, man. And a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. That
yes. Oh, they keep me busy. Both boys. So, which I was very happy with.
Yeah, really.
I came from a family of, I had 1 brother and 5 sisters. So.
So you need some boys in your life.
Yes. And they're so much easier to deal with.
I'm sure.
In my opinion. I have 2 nieces as well and love them to death. But the drama.
Yeah.
You get the drama with it.
For sure.
And it's so much different than the boys.
Oh, man. That's cool, man. Well, so where can people find out more about you? I know, so we'll plug your Instagram and your YouTube.
Yeah. I actually made it easy on myself. I renamed about a year ago when I started getting serious about everything. My Instagram, my podcast, and my YouTube is all just my name. Phil Hollandsworth. HOLLANDSWORTH. Or as my parents say, Holland S-Worth.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay,
Holland
cool.
S-Worth.
I love it, man. Well, we'll put links for all that in the description of Anchor, and that'll go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then in the YouTube video as well. And hopefully some traffic your way. Phil, man, really, I love this. You're higher energy guys. This is a fun podcast. I really enjoyed this.
Fun.
It's been fun being here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.